Hi, my name is Jonathan. Welcome back. It's your first time. Then, welcome. Today, I wanted to review some some studies that I've been looking into. A while back, there was a LDS Living article, and excuse me, Sarah Jane Weaver was interviewing Sister Wendy Nelson, and through this, we learned a lot about President Nelson and his character, everything. The interesting thing here is this is something that even President Oakes and others have mentioned is witnessing, seeing President Nelson receive revelation, and excuse me, knowing that revelation is coming through. This is significant to me, so I just wanted to understand it a little bit more. So I went through and looked up this conversation that they had, and Sarah Jane Weaver is asking about things that asking Sister Nelson what has she noticed about President Nelson. Here's what Sister Nelson says. Here's something different that I've noticed about his future orientation lately. Now he looks 50 to 100 years ahead. That's new to me. One day he recently said to me, "Oh, I wish I could tell you one of the decisions we made today. It will be thrilling." I said, "Well, when will I know?" "Oh, you'll know in about 50 years." "Great, can't wait." So he's always looking forward and he's always looking up. So, onward and upward. So, I mean, think about this. So I've gotten to attend meetings and have Elder Betnar there. I'm actually going to do a video of times I embarrassed myself in front of general authorities, and that will be a video to look forward to. On this occasion, we were asked as missionaries for the zone leaders to prepare 2 questions and to come in the attitude of fasting. And uh, Elder Betnar would come and speak with us, but wouldn't have time to stay and shake our hands. So I just was listening, and he said, "Ask questions. Questions you can only ask an apostle." I mean, not a question just anyone can answer. And I had 2 questions prepared. I don't really know what they are. Um, but he was looking around, and he would call on people from time to time, and he would decide whether him or the 70 that was accompanying him would speak. And on this occasion, I just put up my hand, and we're sitting so he could look directly at me. And I was probably a little bit older of a missionary, probably a couple years older. He had the new missionary age come in, so everybody was younger. I had this raggedy old brownish suit I was wearing from my brother's mission, which he did, I think, in the early thousands or late 90s. And this was 2013, I think. So he's looking around, sees people. As soon as my hand comes up, he locks on and calls on me. And then he stops for a moment and says, "Guys, if I looked at you and didn't call on you, just calm down." I didn't look into your soul, and it's not damnation or anything like that. I'm not sure what his exact words were. Because I'm not looking into your soul or anything like that. He's calling on people who he feels prompted to that would help present the conversation that the Lord desires to have presented to that people at the time. And the question I asked was not one of the prepared questions I had. And I was asking about how revelation is received among the 12 apostles, and then how is it carried out. And he's like, okay. Then he asked the 70 to if he would like to get up and answer that. So he did. Well, he didn't. So he spoke on for a while, and then that 70 had sat back down. Elder Bednar got back up and says, well, Elder, did that answer your question? And I just wanted to say, yes, fine, thanks. But instead, I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just say? So he leans forward. He's like, well, let me see if I can try. And then he goes on about the preparation of the 12 apostles. He goes on about how they are throughout their life called to where they're supposed to be. Their experiences shape them into what they need to be, and that when they're called up as 70s. So I think some of this was also for the 70 as well as for us, but I think for everybody. He said that they are being trained and schooled from a young, not young, but like their early time as a general authority to focus on certain areas of study and progression within the church and direction. And so they're actually thinking like 20 years ahead. So by the time that this 70 ends up becoming an apostle, that project that they've been working on for such a long time is now free to be carried out by who that apostle is or prophet is at that time. So, for example, a lot of people attribute Gordon B. Hinckley to being the temple building prophet, the media prophet. But he had been working on that under the direction of earlier prophets and they're under the Lord. So when Sister Wendy Nelson says 50 to 100 years, that's more than 20, right? 20 years is something that you end up seeing. Now, President Nelson, he's highly focused on the rising generation. It's something that he's drawn to all the time. Before I left on a mission, I got my calling, and we were having an area conference where President Nelson was visiting. And I was at the Stake Center, standing up on the stairs. I didn't know a general authority was coming. It was somebody who came up to me later and was looking at the parking lot, and he said, "Have you seen him yet?" And I said, "Who?" He said, Elder Nelson." I said, "No." What? Is he coming? He's like, "Yeah, he's speaking today." So I'm like, "Oh wow, that's cool." And I see this car off in the distance, and lots of people are coming in. And I'm like, "Oh look, there he is," just jokingly, and it ended up actually being him. It looked like the mission president and his wife was driving him. So they pull in like right in front of where I'm standing on the steps, and he gets out. They go to the trunk, get out briefcase, and looks up and just does this wave. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen a general authority before. And I see my mom, who is being walked out to her car, and there seemed to be some type of issue with her. She needs something from the car. So I went to go walk with her and tried telling her, like, President or Elder Nelson is over there. He's right behind. And she's like, well, go shake his hand, go talk to him. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. He gets bombarded all the time. I don't want to bother him. And so just let him enter in through the stake offices. And he stayed behind and shook everybody's hand. And I thought my experience being able to see him like drive up right on in front of me and then wave directly to me and see me, to me, that was enough. And so I thought I wouldn't go and shake his hand like everybody else was doing. Um, so I still have yet to shake a hand of any of the 15 lead general authorities. I've seen them many occasions, but for some reason just never shook their hands. So that was a tangent, so I apologize for that. But the thing that stood out to me with Sister Nelson is saying, or what President Nelson said is that the future is going to be thrilling. And why 50 to 100 years ahead? Okay, see, I forgot. So, scatterbrain. At that meeting, when he came to our stake and spoke, he actually asked all the children, primary age children, to stand up on their seats and be recognized, basically. He is highly focused on the youth. So now, when we hear 50 to 100 years, he is highly focused on us being prepared and ready. And I thought, well, if the second coming is soon, like, is it sooner than 50 to 100 years, or is it later? Because this sounds later, unless they're preparing everything for the millennium. Or is everything going to occur in a way that we're not really expecting? We've kind of romanticized an apocalyptic view of everything. But there's lots of things that have been fulfilled that we are, for the most part, we're still expecting, and we didn't know it was fulfilled until a prophet tells us it's fulfilled. But I thought, what could be thrilling? And actually did a search trying to find thrilling. Let's see. It was in the October 2018 from Elder Nelson. And it is Becoming Exemplary Latter-day Saints. See, this whole thing is about becoming a shepherd. Here we go. This is the very last talk. So here he mentions this has been an inspirational and historical conference. We look to the future with enthusiasm. Here I urge you to study these messages commencing this week. They express the mind and will of the Lord for his people today. Here is where I found thrilling. It says, consider the great mercy and fairness of God, who before the foundation of the world provided a way to give temple blessings to those who died without a knowledge of the gospel. These sacred temple rites are ancient. To me, that antiquity is thrilling and another evidence of their authenticity. Then it goes on here. I plead with you to take a prayerful look at how you spend your time. Invest your time in your future and in all that, and in that of your family. Encourages us to make regular appointments at the temple. And here he leaves a blessing. So the thing is I looked up a few things about thrilling. This one came back to temple, and now I considered what are the temple issues going on right now. The temple work is now we're able to make them faster, and there's urgency to get them out, like get them out and built fast. So what happens in 50 years that's going to be thrilling? Is that going to be the end of our temple building? In fact, I don't even know what year this interview was. Said about 50 years is when she would find out. And Sister Wendy Nelson has expressed a couple things where the church has undergone some difficulties. This last General Conference, October 2022, came at great risk and sacrifice, or great sacrifice of the speakers. So there you kind of have an idea of that. She also called it um, a singular event. I actually looked up singular event all through here, and what I ended up finding is when it was used to reference the atonement, the restoration of the gospel, and um, a former prophet and his witness of uh, life beyond death, of heaven, who had seen a vision of heaven. And that was considered a singular event. So those are the things we associate with singular events previously. And then this is something that she used to describe the October 2022 conference. Now, are we going to be done building temples after 50 years? Is that when Christ is going to come? No idea. Is that when he's going to come in all his glory? Is that when we're going to set into motion um, building Zion? No idea. Sounds like a jubilee, like after 49 years on the 50th jubilee. I think the last recorded jubilee was on the Shabbat website, said 2017 to 2018. So 50 years from then, maybe. The other part I found where thrilling was mentioned was a bicentennial in 1976. So in 2026, we have something to look forward to, I guess. Well, bicentennial, that's every 200 years, right? And we just now put in a 200-year mark for a new bicentennial, marking the bicentennial of the restoration. But there's lots of things which the prophet is saying right now. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to get bumpy. To me, this is another word for be steadfast. Gird up your loins. Now is the time. Now is the time is actually used as the title of a lot of talks, but all at key moments in history, particularly year 2000, just before the hastening of the work in 2012. Have it at the economic recession that we had in 2008. All these things we've been prepared for. And President Nelson's been pretty consistent with it, with what he's been talking about and the direction that we ought to be going. But to me, this is thrilling. The thrilling portion is referring to temple work and the blessings that come from the temple. Now, imagine if we're not making a regular appointment to attend the temple, where it's even accessible then how likely would we be to be invited to something like Adam-on-Diamond? What if we treated the temple like it was the meeting at Adam-on-Diamond? Would what would change with our behavior? It's there where we're being promised additional blessings to help us through everything. So if we're struggling, shouldn't we go to the temple, the house of the Lord? I mean, I thought it was a no-brainer, but then I became a parent and like, holy crap, live in a rural area. Who am I going to get to watch the kids? What's going on? Like, man, I just appreciate the direction that we've been given and the consistency we've been given with it, and that we can measurably look at the increase in frequency of these things. Um, it's almost like if we showed a graph of the frequency, it'd be going off the charts, Richter scale. But I know in the Joe Smith translation of Genesis 9, I believe, it says that when Zion on earth looks upward and Zion up above with Enoch will look downward, the Lord will remember his promise he made, his everlasting covenant he made with Enoch. And both Zions will come down and reunite, and the earth will shake in joy. And this will be at a time when men keep all of the commandments. So therefore, we have to have all the commandments provided for us to keep. And studying the lives of President Nelson, he's he does pretty good. A lot better than I would. He's an exceptionally disciplined person. I'm still working on disciplining myself more, on eating less comfort foods. Anyways, that's going to be it for now. I hope you found something in here valuable. I didn't plan on doing a video today. It's just something that came up. So, hope you enjoyed and have a great day.